Welcome to another episode of Crypto Cove, everyone. I think we're on episode 4 of this educational series now. It's certainly gone on longer than I originally thought it would, but that's absolutely okay. So, yes, indeed, we are here for another night at Crypto Cove. How are you all doing?
Doing great, Hunter.
Alrighty, good to hear. Good to hear.
Doing awesome, Hunter.
Excellent. Excellent. So, folks, for this call, we're going to be discussing obtaining cryptocurrency and filling our wallets in that way, mostly through buying. So, first, we're going to take a look at the wallets. So, we can see here, for example, we have one popular wallet. Now, there's something you may notice about this wallet in particular, it's that it's empty. Now, there's actually two reasons for that. Number one is that this is the wallet I had back from when I was a kid. And number two, it's not actually a type of wallet that we're going to be talking about tonight. Sorry for that cheap gag, folks. It's the second to last time it's going to happen on this call. Keep an eye out for the last time. All right, so with that in mind, we'll go ahead and do a screen share, and I'll go ahead and show you the actual wallet that we're going to be looking at tonight. All right, so here we are in our browser, and we're going to open up our favorite Web3 wallets, cryptocurrency wallets, in this case, that being MetaMask. And we can see, just like it was when we looked at MetaMask the last time, this is indeed also empty. Now, this is a problem if we want to do anything with this wallet. We need to be able to move funds into it in some way, and that way would be buying crypto. Now, we certainly have our pick of different cryptos here in the most popular networks. We have several different kinds of Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin, Tron, Ethereum, BNB, Polygon, etc., etc., etc. So, one of the most common questions people ask when they first get started in crypto is how do they purchase cryptocurrency? For most people, this is going to look like one of a couple different pathways to purchasing crypto. The first and the most traditional way is going to be through a exchange that you create an account on. And we'll just go through a couple of those on my list that I've used before and I like for various reasons. This is in no particular order, but these include Bybit, Crypto.com, not Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, OKX, and Gemini. So one thing you all may be thinking is, are there so many exchanges that I have on my list that I kind of recommend? Now, the answer to that is twofold. Reason number one is that you may be looking for a particular cryptocurrency that one exchange does not support, but another exchange does. Like, for example, if you're looking for, say, USDT on the Binance Smart Chain, Gemini does not support the Binance Smart Chain, but Binance does. So you would definitely go to Binance if you were looking for that rather than Gemini, of course. And the second reason is that some exchanges just don't do business in some areas for whatever reason. And a lot of the time, this boils down to the legalities of one region or another and how they feel about crypto. For example, say in New York State, for instance, most crypto exchanges just do not do business there because the state requires you to requires cryptocurrency companies to get a special license. That's a type of money transmitter license, although it's much more stringent and much harder to get. So many exchanges just decide to forego the process, and for that reason, they just cannot do business in New York. And there are other regions across the world that have similar laws in place that make it more difficult for cryptocurrency exchanges to do business. So that's no reason why you might want to keep an eye on more than one exchange, because chances are that one exchange or another exchange on my list just doesn't do business in your area. So that's why we have so many of them. So yeah, that's how that goes. And the next step with selecting an exchange, let's say, for example, that you decided you wanted to go with, oh, I don't know, we'll just say Gemini for the heck of it. I'll go ahead and share my screen again. So how this would go with creating an account on the exchange is you would click on a create account or get started button. In the case of Gemini, it's a get started button right here. So we'll go ahead and click there. And we won't go too deep into this process with any of these exchanges, because the process is going to look just a bit different between exchanges, and in some cases could look vastly different. So what you would do here is you would enter in your email address, and then it would ask you for some personal information, such as your name. And then it would ask you to go through processes such as a know your customer process, where it might ask for your photo ID as well as a selfie scan of your face. And I've even heard of some exchanges asking for your national ID card, or for those in the US, that would be your social security number. Over at OKX, it's a bit of a similar story here. We would click the sign up button, and then it would have us select our location, then create an account. And then it would ask us to provide our email address. Then after that, it would ask us for our personal information once again. With Kraken, it's a similar story. We would click on the sign up button, and it would prompt us to, again, go through the process of creating an account here. Although looks like here in Kraken's case, it does give us the option right here in the same setup dialog to select whether the account is for a personal account or a business account. With Binance, again, a similar story. We click the sign up button, and yep, it asks for our email address first and foremost, once again. Although in some cases we may see exchanges accept phone numbers, as with the case of Binance, for those of you that don't have an email address for one reason or another. And you get the idea. The process is going to be at least kind of similar in the very beginning with any exchanges that you decide to do business with. So this is the most traditional way of accessing cryptocurrency and buying it, but it's not the only way. There's several other different ways of accessing cryptocurrency, and there are several reasons why you might want to forego the traditional route. Now, the second route, and one that quite a few users also decide to go with, is the buy dialog within their particular wallet if their wallet supports that. Now, in the case of MetaMask, that is through the buy option. So we would go ahead and click on the buy button here. And that would take us over to the MetaMask portfolio dialog. where we would select the cryptocurrency we would like to buy. We'll say, for example, that we want to buy BNB on the Binance Smart Chain. And then it would allow us to switch our region and regional currency. We can see that MetaMask has detected that I'm in Panama. So, of course, we can select Panama. But for some reason, it does seem to think that the local currency is the euro. No, it is not. All right, so with that, we can go ahead and input how much of, in this case, Binance coin we would like to buy. I'm going to leave it at the default a $5. Of course, if you want to buy more, you could just delete the A5 and type in however much you're wanting to buy. Although note that there is going to be a minimum for some currencies. For some currencies, this is going to be as low as, say, $5 or $10, whereas with some other currencies, this is going to be closer to $100, especially if the gas fees or transaction fees for that particular token or that particular chain are higher. So, for example, with Bitcoin, for example, you could expect the minimum here to be closer to 100 or perhaps even $200. And that's going to be the case even with the traditional route with the traditional exchanges, because there are some trades and some exchanges that they just would not want to work on whatsoever because due to the gas fees and transaction fees involved, you may find that if your trade or your buy is small enough that they just find that it's really not worth their time whatsoever. So if we go ahead and proceed with buying through MetaMask, we can see that this actually takes us to a third-party exchange that MetaMask does business with. Now, this is a common misconception in the crypto world for newbies that get started. Wallets themselves do not function as exchanges 99% of the time. MetaMask is not an exchange. It does not offer to do any buying or selling or trading for you. It simply holds your cryptocurrency. So in this case, we can see that our buy is being routed through Banxa, and Banxa is a fairly popular cryptocurrency exchange in the Latin America region. So if we go ahead and click continue with Banxa, we can see, oh, error with Banxa, please try again. Maybe that's because I left the amount to 0 here. We'll go ahead and replace that with 100. And now we can see that that option has been replaced with MoonPay since MoonPay now has the best quotes. But we can see more quotes here from more exchanges. And we can see that Banxa has the best rates here. So we can go ahead and click continue with Banxa. And for some reason, Banxa is still giving us problems. Perhaps because I'm screen sharing. So we'll go ahead and go over to MoonPay and click continue with MoonPay. And yep, it's an error here as well. Not sure what's going on there. But that just goes to show you folks, we're live. We're not patching over any mishaps or mistakes or anything of the sort that happens. We're just going with it. So I'll go ahead and hit the back arrow and we'll try again with a different currency. Like for example, let's say USDT. And selecting USDT actually brings us to another point that I wanted to go over as well. If you decide to buy a token that's on a certain network, then you also have to make sure that you have the associated gas token for that network as well. We went over this quite a bit in, I think it was our second call in this series. But if you're going to do business on a certain chain, like for example, the Ethereum chain, then you need the Ethereum that is the native gas token for that chain. So if you buy Tether USD on the Ethereum chain, then you also need to buy some Ethereum if you don't already have it, because otherwise your USDT is just going to be stuck in your wallet and you're not going to be able to do anything with it. Because every transaction on the Ethereum network requires some Ethereum to pay the gas fee. I won't go too deep in as far as the associated gas fees with every network because, well, we went into that on the second call that I was just talking about. So if you haven't seen that call, then I'll have a link in the description to that call down below so you can catch up on that call. Of course, that matter, once we're done with this series, what I'll probably do is I'll probably make a playlist so that everyone can watch all these episodes in the series in order. All right, so again, we're over at the MetaMask portfolio again, and we've selected Tether USD on the Ethereum mainnet to buy. And we can also see in some cases, MetaMask will give you an option of what sort of payment method to use. In this case, debit or credit is usually selected as the default. And we can see that indeed that's the only method offered in this case. So of course it's going to be the default. But depending on your region, you may also see some other options available. Like for example, you may see an option for a bank wire or a wire exchange or some sort of different functionality that your particular region offers. Like, for example, I think I recall seeing Swift being offered as an option here for someone that was in the European Union that I was working with at one point. So we'll go ahead and continue with debit or credit. And one thing that I want to point out here is that credit is typically going to be a bit of a lie. A vast majority of the time, banks just do not want you to use their credit cards to purchase cryptocurrency whatsoever. I've seen that in all cases that I've worked with people before when they try to use credit cards. Their bank just refused to let go through, even when the bank was relatively crypto friendly in general. So keep that in mind if you're purchasing crypto, you want to use a debit card rather than a credit card if you're purchasing it with a card. So we're going to try again with Banksa here, and looks like it shifted my currency again. Tech problems here are what they are. All right, so we'll go ahead and click see more quotes, and we'll try again with Banksa again. And we still got an error, so it looks like the API calls that MetaMask uses in this case are down. That's unfortunate because that kind of derails the presentation a bit, but that's how it goes. But it also a means for us to segue into another means of buying through a wallet, and that would be through, for example, if you're using Exodus, for example. Now, in Exodus, the buy option is going to look like this. It'll look like a dollar sign with a, I guess that's a hexagon symbol. We'll go ahead and click the buy and sell button. And here we have the option to input however much of our national currency that we would like to pay. We can see that your C is the default because Panama is a dollarized economy, but the fiat on-ramp supports a decent amount of fiat currencies. So for quite a few regions, you may find that you have some options here. And we can select the cryptocurrency that we would like to receive. Of course, Bitcoin is certainly going to be the standard, but we can see that we have several options here for what we would like to buy. And the same can be true of over in MetaMask when the API calls decide to work, is we can see that we have several networks to choose from. Like, for example, if I select Avalanche, we can see that it's just the majors to choose from here. If we go over to BNB chain, we have a few more options here. And if we select all networks, then that shows us just about everything. Alrighty, and the main benefits of using this sort system, using either MetaMask or Exodus to buy your crypto with, even though it ultimately routes through an exchange, is that the API means that your wallet is going to be where the cryptocurrency ultimately ends up. Because if you decide to go through an exchange like Bybit, Crypto.com, or Binance, then the cryptocurrency that you purchase through the exchange is going to go through an exchange wallet that's in the exchange's control. And you might find yourself okay with that. I, however, do not, because the one biggest rule in crypto is not your keys, not your crypto. We went over this in one of the presentation calls, but ultimately, if you if you do not have the seed recovery phrase or recovery seed that was used to create the wallet, or you do not have access to the private key for that wallet, then it's not your wallet, and the cryptocurrency in there is not yours. So if you leave your cryptocurrency on an exchange, like again, for example, Binance, Crypto.com, or Bybit, then you do not own cryptocurrency. You own an IOU. Now, some of you may be okay with that. I would not be okay with that, and I highly recommend you not being okay with that. But of course, folks are going to do what they want to do. So the benefit of using MetaMask or Exodus or any other wallet that offers a buy option within its software is that the cryptocurrency you purchase will go directly into your wallet rather than an exchange wallet that you then have to move the cryptocurrency out of and pay fees to go along with that, and perhaps have to go through some additional hoops or waiting periods to make that happen. So exchanges are good for some things, definitely. Accessing crypto when you need to access it quickly is certainly not going to be one of those things, particularly if you're a new customer. All right, so those are the main ways that you would access cryptocurrency and you would purchase cryptocurrency. But of course, there are also some other methods of doing so. Now, you may see, depending on your region, you may see certain Bitcoin ATMs in your region or area of the world that allow you to purchase your cryptocurrency, most of the time Bitcoin, with just cash money in your hands or through a debit card. Now, I typically do not recommend people use these machines because they typically charge very, very high fees. Like, for example, I've seen some machines charge upwards of 50% of your entire buy. So that can eat into what you're buying quite a bit, and you get a lot less bang for your buck that way. So again, I certainly would not recommend those unless you really have no other option because fees like that are bordering on predatory, quite frankly. So ignore them pretty much is my recommendation. And one other option for accessing cryptocurrency would be to get from a friend of yours that already has cryptocurrency. So, like for example, if you work with someone that already does business with cryptocurrency a lot, you could offer to say sell them, cash at them, borrow them, PayPal them, or what have you, some money in order for them to sell you some cryptocurrency. And this would be what is called a peer-to-peer selling. And that's fairly popular along the more privacy focused or anonymity focused side of the cryptocurrency space because of course there's really no public record since now the exchanges don't know who you are and they don't know that anyone has bought cryptocurrency with the exception of perhaps your friends if your friend buys you an exchange. And there are several people that do make a living doing that by charging fees and offering to do that for folks that are unbanked and cannot access exchanges in any sort of conventional or routine way. Now, these fees are typically lower than if you would go through a Bitcoin ATM or BTM as they're typically called. So that's absolutely a good option if you have someone in your area that would be willing to sell to you. So definitely take a look and see what all is available in your area. And I definitely want to try and stress this by saying that none of the options that I've shown tonight are going to be suitable for every region because, again, there are some exchanges that just will not do business in your area for any reasons whatsoever. You may find that there are a few people in your region that would be willing to do business with you and sell you crypto, or you may find that there just aren't any Bitcoin ATMs in your area. So these are the main ways, but one thing that you definitely want to keep in mind based off of that is that you should absolutely do your own research and don't just listen to what I tell you to do because what I tell you to do is of course going to be colored by what's available in my region and what I have access to given how long I've been in crypto. So there's only one person that can choose what option is best for you. And would anyone like to tell me the name of that person?
Me.
Mm-hmm. You. Absolutely. All right. So with that in mind, excuse me for a moment, folks. All right, folks. Sorry about that interruption there. Our typical host here, Hunter, is well, he's a bit tied up at the moment, so I'm going to be taking over a bit. My name is Alex, and I'm going to show you how you would ultimately do business with someone who would be selling you cryptocurrency. So, in the case of what Hunter was just talking about, Now, he did purchase some cryptocurrency from me earlier, so now I'm going to showcase how that would happen and how I would send cryptocurrency over to his wallet. So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and share my screen if the button will work. All right, so here we are over at my browser, and I'm going to open up my MetaMask wallet. And what Hunter did was that he bought $20 worth of USDT on the Binance Smart Chain or BNB chain from me earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send that over to him now. But first for that, I'm going to need his wallet address. Now, I could just ask him for that, and that's usually what you would want to do. But well, I don't think he's available to talk to me right now. He's definitely a little tied up. That no, he's not tied up, folks. That he's not tied up at all. I'm just using that as an expression. He's not tied up, folks. You hear me? Write it down. So we're going to go ahead and go over to his browser, and I'm going to go ahead and open up his wallet. And I'm going to get his wallet address. Now, again, this is on the Binance Smart Chain, so that's going to be based off of the Ethereum chain. So I can just copy his wallet address for the Ethereum wallet chain. Then we can go on back to my wallet and open it back up. Then I can click on the send button, and I can select the asset that I'm wanting to send. In this case, Tether USD on the Binance Smart Chain, because he did buy USDT from me. And then I'll go ahead and paste in that wallet address. And I'll type in 20 in the amount field. And folks, this is going to be fairly similar regardless of the wallet that you're using. I'll go ahead and click continue and click confirm. All right, it shows as confirmed, so the USDT has been sent from my side. We'll go ahead and go over to his wallet and take a look. And we'll switch over to the Binance Smart Chain or BNB chain. And we can see that the 20 USDT is there. I noticed that he doesn't have any BNB at all, so he certainly didn't practice what he preached in this case, maybe because this is still the dummy wallet, but that's going to be stuck there for a bit. Now, if I were a nice person, then I might also send him a bit of BNB here to cover the gas fee, so he can do whatever he's wanting to do here, but I'm not a nice person, so I just consider that his problem. So, folks, that's how you would work with a transfer in this case, because this was a peer-to-peer buy and sell. He bought some cryptocurrency from me. I sold some cryptocurrency to him. So that's definitely how that goes. Nothing else happened here. Everything was calm and in control. And wait, what are you doing? What? Hold on, folks. Okay, folks, I am back once again, and now that our uninvited guest is indisposed of, we can go ahead and proceed with the call. And Yep, Alex did indeed send me some cryptocurrency, USDT, to work with. So I'll go ahead and share my screen again. And he did note that I don't have any BNB here. That's because I definitely wanted to drive the point home a bit more, not because I forgot to load this wallet with anything, not because I'm a lazy sort of person. So if I go ahead and click on the send button and select USDT, I can type in whatever wallet address I want. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and go back and create a account too, so I can do that properly. So again, we'll go ahead and click on USDT and click on the send button. And I'm going to paste in that second wallet address that I just created. And I'm going to type in 20 USDT because I want to send the USDT over there. And we can see that I can't do it because I don't have the network fee. The network fee in this case, since this is the BNB chain, is going to be BNB. And every transaction, including this one, requires a bit of BNB or the native gas token in order for it to go through. I can click this review alerts that's grayed out as much as I want. It will not let it go through. So keep in mind, because this is a very common pitfall that happens with cryptocurrency newbies, you have to make sure that you get a bit of the native gas token for whatever network that you're on. Again, the case of BNB, the BNB chain, that's going to be BNB. For the Ethereum chain, that's going to be Ethereum. So that way you can save yourself from getting stuck and having to go through a few more hoops in order to get stuff done. Like, for example, now I have to do in order to get this USDT unstuck. So, yep, that guy Alex really screwed me over a bit here since he's not a nice guy. But again, that I was pretty much asking for it at that point. So yeah, this is definitely going to be a bit of a shorter call because that was just about everything that I want to go through for this particular education segment. And for the next one, I'm planning on walking us through all the ways of swapping from beginning to end. So definitely keep an eye out for that one as well, because that definitely takes what we talked about tonight and takes it several steps further. And you may notice that we've definitely been going through a bit of a logical step through is the education calls that have gone on. We've gone over theory, we've gone over a bit of praxis, we've gone over theory again, and now we're going to praxis again. And you may notice if you've been to all the calls that they're all ultimately building on each other from start to finish. That's because I want you to have a good foundation in the crypto space before you really dive deep into it. And that's exactly what this series of calls is meant to do. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and open it up for Q&A. While I go ahead and read the chats and see if there's anything that needs my attention from before I was indisposed of. Nope, not much here. All right, so Viv, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I do. Thank you, Hunter. That was good. Pretty quick, though. Thank you. I remember when I came to you for help with USDT, and then there was that gas fee business. So I just want to clarify, when you just did, um, because you didn't have any gas fees, money for gas fees, you created a wallet on the BNB chain so that you could put some gas fees in there? Is that what you did? Because you quickly created a second wallet, and then I was thinking, oh wait, is that wallet for USDT or what is that? That was for you to put your gas fees in, right?
Well, that second account that I created was so that I could do the demonstration. I could have used any wallet address I wanted. I just wanted you all to see what I was doing. But again, this is a dummy wallet that I'm using. That second account won't actually be used for anything.
Okay, I got that. But then you created a second address in that wallet, didn't you? Was that just for the gas fees, I think?
Well, that was just for show because that other wallet address did not have any BNB in it or any other tokens.
Okay. So you had to get some in there so that you
Yes.
could get that $20 out.
Right. So I'll need to off camera, off screen later on. I'm going to have to go back to MetaMask and get some BNB moved over to that first account so I can move that USDT out and back to the original wallet.
Okay. That's what I thought was happening, and I was trying to keep up. And good. Okay, I got it. I'm with you now, Hunter. Thank you.
Yeah, there'll be a bit of work for me after the fact, but it's worth it for the demonstration. It's worth it for the educational value. And judging from the chat section here, it looks like it was also worth it for the comedic value as well.
That was funny.
Alrighty. And with that, does anyone else have any questions, comments, anything of that nature?
Hunter, can I just ask a question, please?
Absolutely.
I'm a little bit confused. So we bought USDT on the BNB chain on the Ethereum network. Is that right?
So what I did was I bought USDT on the Binance Smart Chain. Now I was using the Ethereum address there because the Binance Smart Chain uses a lot of the same architecture that the Ethereum chain uses. So the address format is compatible between the two. Like for
Gotcha.
example, say if I go ahead and share my screen again to show you a bit more of a look as far as what that looks like. Now, if I go ahead and go over to my Ethereum address here for this wallet, this address here is also going to be compatible with a lot of the different networks that MetaMask supports. If I go ahead and show MetaMask full screen, I should be able to display a full list of all the networks. We can see that in the case of the Ethereum network, we can see that my wallet address here ends in 9E795. In fact, let me go ahead and zoom in here so you all can see a bit better. And you all can see that, right? My Ethereum address ends in 9E795. You all can see that, right?
Yes, I see it.
Yes.
All right, so if we go down here, we can see that Bitcoin has a different address. That's because Bitcoin is not compatible with the same address standard. Neither is Solana for that matter. So we can see that those are going to be different. But if we go down to the Lina mainnet, we can see that in this case, the address also ends in 9E795. That's because it's the exact same address. If I took the address that I have for Ethereum here and the address I have for the line of mainnet, they would come out to be the exact same address. And we did a deep dive on this during our installation MetaMask call, but there are several different chains that MetaMask supports that use the same address format. So it can use the exact same address for a lot of different chains. It's done this way in part so the entire cryptocurrency network is more interoperable with each other in the Web3 space, but also it's definitely for a convenience factor. So if you give someone your address and they end up sending you tokens or cryptocurrency on a different chain than what you were expecting, then chances are you can still access that cryptocurrency, although you might need the gas fee for that network. But in most cases, again, you'll still have it, you'll still be able to access it. So it's not completely the end of the world. Whereas before, when we had different address formats for everything, like for example, Bitcoin has a different address format than Litecoin. Litecoin has a different address format than Dogecoin, etc., etc. And if you accidentally sent the wrong token to an address that is not on that chain, then that cryptocurrency and by extension that money that you just sent gets lost in the ethers. Now, most wallets thankfully stop you from doing that because most wallets these days recognize that you've input a invalid address. So, like for example, if you're trying to send Bitcoin, but you're trying to send Bitcoin through an Ethereum wallet or to an Ethereum address, then most of the time your wallets will detect that you have an Ethereum address in there, and it'll say, "Wait, hold up, you something's wrong here," and it'll stop you from going forward until you fix that. So most of the time, wallets will prevent you from making that mistake nowadays, but there are some that just will not. So definitely something to keep in mind. But thankfully, with the Ethereum chain and several chains that are based off of that chain, it's really less of a problem nowadays. All right, and in the chat, Liam asks, I've been using Coinbase for years without any problems. Now they have become a real pain with all the questions they ask you. I do not have any account with any other exchange. Where would be the next best place to create an account to buy and sell crypto? So, of course, we went through a big line of the exchanges that I certainly suggest, and those would be in no particular order. Those would be Bybit, OKX, Gemini, and there are a couple others I've forgotten already. So yeah, those are definitely a couple of them. And oh, here they are. I had the browser window still open. So the list that we went over tonight was Bybit, Crypto.com, Binance, Kraken, OKX, and Gemini. Between all of those, chances are very good that at least one of those will do business in your area. So definitely take a look at which one you might decide to go with and absolutely take a look further as far as what exchanges might be available in your particular area. I realize that answer might seem a bit unsatisfying, and it's not a just a quick, hey, go with this exchange or go with that exchange, because again, not all exchanges do business in all the separate areas and regions of the world. So this is definitely one area where it does pay to do your own research, and often it's not going to require much more than just a simple Google search, DuckDuckGo search, or what have you for cryptocurrency exchanges available in my region or my location. Alrighty, so are there any further questions?
Hunter, can I just ask, do you know if coin payments is still around? I can Google it, of course, but years and years ago I used them and then I went to something else and I just thought we should have a couple of options in our arsenal, shouldn't we? if we're going to, launch into this space with all the programs that we have going. I don't know if they're still around, and then it's different for Canada and the States and Europe, and if I'm traveling, I have to consider all those.
Yep, and I'm pretty sure that coin payments is in fact still in business, so that absolutely could be an option for folks.
Okay, good, thank you.
Although we will be doing a dedicated call in this education series on off-ramping, so the other answer I have for that is stay tuned.
I like that, I'm intrigued.
Alrighty, are there any further questions, comments, things of that nature?
Just appreciate you doing this series, Hunter. I'm learning so much. Thank you.
Glad you're enjoying
I
them.
co-sign that. Yeah, I do. I co-sign
Thank
that.
you.
It's just so helpful.
I'm glad you all are enjoying it. It's definitely been a fun time doing this for you all. All right, let me go ahead and double check the chat, make sure I haven't missed anything. We so appreciate it, Hunter. Thank you so much. And yep, I absolutely love doing these. It's definitely been a labor of love at times, as some of you might have seen from the proper presentation slideshow calls that I've done. There won't be any more of those, thankfully, at least not for the next while. So we all won't have to suffer through that for the next while. Alrighty, so does anyone else have any questions, comments, anything else of that nature? No? Have I done my job too well again, folks?
You have indeed, I think.
Absolutely.
Alrighty then. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and close out. Thank you all once again for coming through an excellent Crypto Cove episode. And stay tuned for the next one. We'll be hopefully back to our usual time and day, that being Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. New York time. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.